hesitate to ask this question because I would hate to inadvertently give any credence to a concern raised by representatives from Civitas.
My comments to you all are ahead of the decision by the Allocations Committee and ultimately you all to reaward the Child Care Services Association the fiscal year 11-12 contract for child care subsidies. A brief prepared statement. I want to know how can we justify CCSA with this contract and what we would say to the parents and child care providers who were affected last year with CCSA's mishandling of the child care subsidies. Child Care Services Association spent 2/3 of their year-long budget in 6 months last year, forcing 194 children off the subsidy rolls, sending parents scrambling to find another source of affordable child care, and panicking child care providers who had to make up for the lost revenue. CCSA admits that they knew the way they wrote their budget would cause a funding crisis, and they claimed that they hoped more funding would arrive. And hope is not a way to write your budget. It was an irresponsible use of taxpayer money, and I'm here to question why would we award them more. So can we really say that this is in the best interest of Durham County?
Good afternoon, everybody. I was one of the parents, not parents, but providers that was affected in December. As you know, we had 250 children that did not receive funding after December 17th. I was one of those programs that was greatly affected. I was very hurt for parents who had been with me for 24 years. I had a child that had 1 more year with me, and the parent couldn't continue her job. She had to quit her job, and she had to go home with her child. I don't know where the parent is today. So I need to make an awareness in this community. We cannot fail our children. We cannot continue to have a 3-year-old go home. And these are the poorest of our community. These children come to us. Sometimes don't even have breakfast. Can't even, it's just.
I'm sorry, I thought that the explanation for the scholarship program ending was because the funds needed to be shifted.
No, the two are unrelated.
Because we really never understood what happened. And so that's fine that that's not what happened, but that was my understanding, that, it needed to be a match for the early Head Start. Okay.
Is there any reason or concern about this committee not being a representative, fair group?
I think that's an excellent point. For me, I think the makeup of the committee and how they're is an issue. None of those volunteers reflect the communities of the children that are being served by this population. And the concern that I consistently hear is we don't reflect the community that we serve, and this group does not reflect the community that these programs serve.
The people who are expert in that area cannot speak at this meeting, but it's hard to answer it because we don't have the expertise.
I hesitate to ask this question because I would hate to inadvertently give any credence to a concern raised by representatives from Civitas. But I do feel compelled to ask for a brief summary of the situation last year.
The one piece that I can speak to is that you'll note in the recommendation on this chart The committee very much took into consideration related to performance, and you'll note that that is a very highly weighted point on the rating tool. And you'll see on the recommendation a specific note that her Partnership for Children will monitor spending closely and require increased reporting as a way of ensuring that the pace of expenditure and the service of children is continuous throughout the year.
Okay. So that's reassuring. It would be more helpful to me if we can have just a brief rundown of how it was that we got to that point.
Certainly, there has been a lot of conversation and a lot of publication and written memo and summary of that. Unfortunately, as the new executive director, I'm not in a position to speak to that prior to my being in leadership. And I think we certainly want to make sure that people understand from the board level the occasions of how programs perform in the prior year. I think our concern is if this is the place to be able to unpack a very complex
That's a good point.
situation and one that occurred over time. So we can acknowledge that there certainly wasn't one incident, but there were things over time and a lot in the context that I think there has been a lot of effort to be very transparent about, and we welcome dialogue. I think the concern is related to the action of the board and the deliberation of the board. It would, I would defer to our chair in terms of what the best format for real open dialogue to occur, and so that the parties who are most involved could really engage in that dialogue. So I think that's some of our challenge for in this setting. And as you can imagine, given some conflict of interest, when people who have closest information aren't able to speak in the context of the discussion with a motion on the table.
We have none, and I'm going to call for the vote. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of accepting this recommendation, please raise your hand.